Well, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today on The Communicative Leader. I'm really excited to chat with you and learn more about you. And one thing you often talk about is pulling the golden threads of a leader's wisdom. And I love this. And I'm wondering, for a leader who feels overwhelmed by their decades of experience, how do they start to identify that kind of one core message that defines their leadership voice?
Yeah, I love this question. Thank you so much for having me too. I think it all comes back to our own individual purpose. And I talk a lot about purpose with leadership because when we look at the overall arching umbrella of our lives and of our work, our career, our leadership experience, we will find the same threads going through over and over again. So right now, I'm a book publisher. I have been a business coach. I have been a marketing consultant. I've done a lot of things, but what goes through every thread of everything I've done in my life is helping people step up and do what they're here to do and express themselves in a new way. So when I look at that thread, that's what I bring into my leadership for my team, my expression, and my leadership style, right? So you look at your overall thread, you may have had a million different careers,
Hmm.
but I bet you there's a thread that goes through all of them.
Hmm. Yeah, and what a gift, Michelle, to be able to look back and see that as your contribution.
Yeah, and we all have one.
Yeah. So let's talk about the divine and dangerous. So, you have this framework, divine and dangerous leadership, and I love this. And it pairs two very different concepts. So I'm hoping you could talk to us about both. But what is the dangerous element of communication that most leaders are too afraid to tap into? And why do you
Oh
see
my
it as
gosh.
being essential? Yeah.
Right, all of us. And so we got to tell the truth. And as leaders, we have to tell the truth. And that is so hard. I mean, you'd think it would be easy. We have been taught and conditioned, especially as women, but not only women, sometimes to skirt the truth, to tell little white lies, to be nice, to not hurt other people's feelings. And you can tell the truth and still be nice. You can tell the truth and still be empathetic. And I found in today's marketplace, there just isn't any time to pussyfoot around
Mm-hmm.
what might be the real issues, right? And people today are much more savvy. We expect the authenticity. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like it was decades ago where you were kind of wondering what was going on behind the scenes. Like, everybody expects you
Mm-hmm.
to tell them how it is these days. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's two things to dangerous. One is you have to tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But even more dangerous is you have to tell the truth to yourself. And that's the piece that's super scary. You have to tell the truth about what your gifts are, what you're really here to do. Are you going to step up and do them? Are you going to step up and own your gifts?
Mm-hmm.
So many of us say, oh, yeah, I'm good at that, but so and so is better. Or, yeah, I guess I'm okay at that. No, if you're good at it, say it, own it, be it, do
Yeah.
it. And that can sometimes be super scary because then we're like getting out there and being who we're supposed to be in the world.
Yeah, yeah. And then talk to us a little bit about the divine element of this framework.
Yeah, so it goes back to purpose again. Only you know what your purpose is, and it's not a job, it's not a career, it is something that you are called to do, right? And that's a very intimate, personal discussion with yourself to have
Hmm.
that emerge. My premise is we all are living our purpose, even if we don't know what that is. We don't have to chase it.
Mm-hmm.
If we're a nurse, nursing isn't our purpose, but maybe caregiving is. Or maybe it could be listening. It could be so many different things, right? And so when you lean into what your purpose is and you honor that, it's much easier to follow your own intuition, your own spiritual guidance, whatever that might be, your
Hmm.
gut, your heart. It's much easier to lean into all of that. And the best leaders on the planet, whether you love them or hate them, talk about following their gut and their heart.
Hmm. Yeah.
And we must be super clear on how to do that and separate what's emotion, what we're reacting to or in fear of, and what's real and true and right for us and our companies and our team and our
Hmm.
clients, and what the next best step is. So that's the divine part.
Yeah, and you can see how that connects so beautifully with the dangerous, especially in telling yourself the truth and telling others the truth.
Right. Right. And it really is about taking a moment and honoring who you are and who the people around you are for who they are. Now,
Mhm.
we may be triggered, we may be in chaos, we may be overwhelmed, but all of that is fleeting. That comes and goes. I'm asking to look a little deeper. What's
Yeah. And so let's keep kind of pulling on that thread. And when I was getting ready for our conversation, I love that this approach you take. You mentioned when you speak on stages that value results and not just inspiration alone. And so I'm wondering, Michelle, where does leadership communication typically fail when it gets stuck at that inspiring level without moving into action or the next steps?
Yeah, you've gotta have, doers on your team. You have to
Mm-hmm.
have doers, you have to have inspirers, you have to, and it may be you. If you're a team of 1, it may be you,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you have a team of even 2 or 3 people or a team of 10 or 20 or whatever it is, make sure that you have doers on the team that are actually gonna take inspiration and be able to follow tasks, be able to follow through with task management, be able to complete projects. We all have different gifts, right? I'm really good at visioning and starting projects. I'm not so great at ending projects.
Mm-hmm.
I know that about me. That's part of my own truth telling. So I have to have people on my team that are going to take things that I've started and finish them for me with direction, with
Mm-hmm.
input. Like they have to give their input if they're going to take a project I've started, right? Or if I have an idea and I can just give it over to someone and say, but implementation is everything. There was a time, and I don't know about your audience, but there's a time
Mm-hmm.
when I was on a lot of podcasts a number of years ago and everyone was talking about see it, believe it, dream it, and it will happen,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Follow manifestation
Yep.
principles and all of
Mhm.
those kinds of things. And my premise has always been, yes, you want to do those things because you want to
Mhm.
anchor them in your heart. You want to know they're right for you. You want to write it down. You want to visualize it. And then you've got to follow the steps. You actually have to do
Mhm.
it. You can't just visualize clean dishes. Some
Yeah.
point you gotta get yourself to your sink, right?
Mhm.
And so, I mean, it sounds funny, but it's amazing how many people just think, "Well, I'm visualizing it, it's gonna
Yeah.
come." Yeah, well, no, you also have
Exactly. Yeah.
to do the
Yeah,
steps.
that's a perfect example there to use to remind yourself it is the believing and visualization and the action.
And the action, and it can be a simple action. Doesn't have to be,
Yeah. Yep.
that old metaphor,
Mhm.
the elephant, you gotta eat it one bite at a time, right? It
Yeah.
can be one small step that gets you in the right direction.
Yeah. And so let's think another way to think about action is the power of subtraction. And in this show, we focus a lot on clarity. And I know in your work as a book coach, as a publisher, a lot of times you help leaders refine their message and it's subtracting the noise so that true conviction can be heard. Can you tell us about that process and how do you help authors or
Yeah.
individuals you coach to get there?
Yeah, so, it's funny because just this week I posted on social and in my email
Mhm.
list that I set a goal to get rid of 100 things in my house in 1 week because I gotta finish editing my book, and my mind is like
Yep.
this, and I just can't.
Yep.
And so you clear the clutter around you,
Mhm.
amazing how calm you are. Easy for me because I've been in the same house for decades, so, you know, old clothes, so I got rid of 100 things, and that's one thing that you can do, like, take care of the clutter outside your world, outside
Mhm.
your head. Make sure that you are getting some quiet time, meditation, walking, knitting, washing dishes, and looking out your window. Anything that it's quiet time where you're not on the phone. You've gotta have that time. Reading, writing, any of that. But then when you're looking at your message, most of us do have decades of experience or years of
Mhm.
experience working in our fields, maybe in other fields. And you got to go back to the threads. What are you good at? You good at coaching. You're good at teaching. You're good at leading. You're good at doing, right? whatever the things are. And if you have a message, if you're writing a book, I always say, what's the one thing you really want your reader to take away?
Mhm.
Start there. And then what are the three things that you're going to tell them to help them get to that takeaway?
Mm.
So if you take this and just put it into coaching for your
Yeah.
business, it's the same rules apply because I was a business coach before I was a book,
Mhm.
right? What's the one thing you want your clients to know about you and your service or your product?
Mhm.
Then what are the three things you're going to do or tell them to help them get to that end result, right?
Yeah.
Everything else is just noise,
Yeah.
especially in today's world. We don't need all the bells and whistles. We don't
Mhm.
need, well, my client's gonna get 102 minutes
Mhm.
with me sometime over the next month, and then they're gonna
Mhm.
get 3 emails. We don't care. We want the result.
Yeah.
What are they gonna get?
Yeah, that's so helpful. I really love that framework and thinking about what is the one takeaway or the one thing and what are, your three tactics in achieving that. So helpful. I'm going to be thinking about that. I've done a couple books and that's a really nice way to think about, how to organize that your thinking going forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. So, Michelle, now I'd like us to think a little bit about kind of this. Sometimes people can think of authenticity and authority as being competing, but we know that these really should be in alignment. So, we know that some leaders, they have this mismatch between that internal mission and then the external persona that they think they need to convey. So, how can a leader refine their storytelling so it feels authentic to them, but remains strategically aligned with organizational goals?
Wow, that's a heck of a question. So my first response is I have no
Hmm.
idea, and I know that's not really true. I
Hmm.
do, but I have to pull that apart for just a minute. And
Yeah.
so I think part of my process as a leader and leading a team is also let's pull it apart and see what's really going on here. So what are you really asking me? You're asking me how to reframe my inner stories, maybe
Hmm.
how to communicate to my team when what I'm feeling or thinking might be different than what's needed, how I can be authentic out there in the world and still be a leader. So here's some things I would say. For my style, I listen a lot and I try not to react. I have vendors and clients and team members who have all kinds of problems and challenges. And we have challenges in the publishing world that have nothing to do with me. Bookstores return books, Amazon changes its algorithm, like all kinds of things, right? That I can't control, but still comes back on me. And so the first thing I would say is you got to give a listening ear and an audience because half the time, all other people want to do is just lash out and vent
Hmm.
because they're mad about whatever's happening in the world.
Hmm.
It's rarely about me, although people do sometimes project on me as they do with any leader, right? But I have to remember it's rarely about me. And then sometimes I'll give a personal example, but mostly I'll just listen and then reflect back
Hmm.
what I heard.
Hmm.
And I'll try to pull it apart a little bit. Like, am I understanding this is what you need? So I started that
Hmm.
process with you and then I didn't finish it. But like, is this really the question you asked? Because I heard a lot in that question. Right. And then I don't like try to justify or defend myself.
Hmm.
Those days are over. I used to years ago. That's one of the things I've learned as a leader. There's such a thing as too much information. There's such a thing as trying to justify it. There's such a thing as defending myself. If I have to say I'm sorry, your books did not make it to the
Hmm.
bookstore in time. We did everything we can and the printer was behind. I don't have to say more than that.
Hmm.
Now I say, and what can we do now? I don't have to go into the 17 phone calls I made trying to get your books out
Hmm.
because then it just becomes more noise again.
Yeah.
So, did I answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. And when you were talking, I was just thinking, in your experience, Michelle, especially leading publishing and all these other iterations, have you felt conflict, between when you were being your authentic self and being in a position of authority? Because I think a lot of people feel like they have to project an image, especially as a titled leader. I think many times for women and titled leaders.
Yeah.
But have you
Yeah.
felt a rub there, or how have you managed that authenticity and authority?
Yeah, I love that people like Barbara Streisand and Beyonce, many other people have this alter ego they step into. And if you don't know what that is, Todd Herman wrote a great book about that, about stepping into an alter ego. Sometimes we just have to do that. But
Mhm.
what I would say is it's still authentic because I'm stepping into a bigger version of me that can hold the
Mhm.
energy of what's required right now.
Mm.
And if I wasn't able to hold that energy, I wouldn't be put in that situation. That's how I feel. Again, what's that adage? God only gives us what we can handle, right?
Mhm.
So when
Mhm.
I have a challenge, I do step into this divine and dangerous self of myself. That's an alter ego of myself. That's a slightly different, bigger persona of who I am. It's still who I am,
Mhm.
and I just believe I'm tapping into my
Mm.
divine self and my dangerous self, right? And so I'm still authentic, but I do have to project kind of this mask. I wouldn't call it a mask.
Mhm.
I would have decades ago, but I think
Mhm.
this is what you're alluding to, that we have to
Mhm.
be someone we're not.
Mhm.
And saying come from it, come to that from your inner space
Mhm.
rather
Yep.
than projecting someone else you think you have to be.
Yep.
Step into that part of you that can handle this, that can hold a bigger energy, that can say,
Yes.
I can do this. It's scary. It's bigger than
Mhm.
it used to. It's like, oh
Yep.
my gosh, what's going to happen next? But I got it. I can do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's really powerful because it's coming from a place of embodiment rather than performance.
Absolutely. Great way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love this idea, Michelle, of what you do in helping people identify these themes and these threads, and that focus of leadership, someone's life work is outliving them. So I'm wondering, in your experience, how does having this kind of documented philosophy, whether it's a framework or a book, how does it help you kind of scale up your trust in a way that those leaders who are, they're showing up, they're doing the work, they're leading the meetings, but they haven't necessarily taken the time to identify these threads for these core messages? How does
Yeah.
that differ when you're doing that larger generative work?
If you want to speak and stages apart from in your own corporate world, right?
Mhm.
If you want to impact as a mentor above and beyond whatever world you're in right now, you really do need a book these days, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
It's kind of become a foundational piece. And so it, a podcast, a book, a TED
Mhm.
talk, if you can have all three, even better.
Yeah.
But you got to have at least one of them, right? So you're
Mhm.
there with the podcast and books.
Mhm.
What it does, though, and I'm sure you've found this, is it forces you to be, again, super honest and truthful with
Mhm.
yourself. Also, you get very clear about who you are and what that message is and what those threads are. Because as you're writing your book and you read your book back, which I hope you do before
Mhm.
you publish
Mhm.
it, you will go, oh, well, that doesn't resonate. Oh, I wonder where I got that
Yeah.
from. That's someone else's.
Mhm.
That's the editor's note,
Mhm.
or that's my mother speaking, or whatever.
Mhm.
And it's actually a really stretching personal development journey
Mhm.
to write a book, a nonfiction book, a fiction
Yep.
book as well, but for
Mhm.
different reasons.
Mhm.
But a nonfiction book, it stretches you in a way that does force you to lean into your divine and dangerous self in a bigger way.
Mhm.
Because you do have to be super clear about what are you going to put down on the paper. It's going to get published. It's going to be out there a decade from
Yep.
now. Now, having said that, I have published books as many, many, many other people have who are
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, I published that a decade ago. That's not who I am anymore. It's not what I
Mhm.
before. But at the time it was.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
all grow and change. You can't
Yep.
you can't write for your future self. You have to write for where you are right now.
Yep. Yeah, that's a really helpful reminder too for people, because I think for a lot of folks, whether it's a podcast or a book or like you're saying, a TED talk, it's that idea of putting yourself out there and knowing there will be critiques or critics, and you can't have all the answers. It's not possible, but we're doing
Yeah.
the best with what we have now.
Right. We are. And oh my gosh, don't do this.
Hmm.
Please don't, anyone listening. But, if you get caught in some comment thread, where
Mhm.
everybody's just bashing each other, yet none of it makes any sense,
Yep.
right? It's like so that
Mhm.
so don't worry about what other people say because it's all just chaos and noise out there. None of it makes sense.
Exactly.
None of it's real. And there's bots that are hired just to
Yeah.
keep threads going so that
Mhm.
social media looks better than it is. Yeah. So don't worry about anybody else's opinion. Just go do your work you have to do in the world.
Yeah. And here's a great follow-up question to that. So as a leader's platform grows, so does scrutiny, as we've been saying. And so, as you just mentioned, kind of stay out of those comment sections. What are other tips that you give your authors or individuals you coached so that they can stay grounded and clear in their own messaging when there starts
Yeah.
to be kind of pushback or friction from others?
It's super helpful to know who you're here to serve, really, because usually when I get people mad at me, they were not a right fit to start with, right? It's usually like just and it's so hard when you're a business to turn down business. And if you're leading a team, sometimes you're just going to have a mismatch, and maybe they're still really important to your team, right? Or you don't have a control over who you're hiring, whatever that is. I don't know, I lost my train of thought there, so
Oh,
sorry.
that's okay. I get it.
Yeah, so I was gonna say something, I was thinking about somebody I think when you have people angry at you or saying, "This book sucked," or "You gave me wrong advice," or whatever, know who you're here to serve, know your strengths,
Mhm.
know how you can help. And, if you have a team member and you're not getting along, just keep it really unpersonal. It's not about you. Don't get triggered. Don't react. Respond after listening. If you have clients or other people that are pushing back, or even worse, just trolls,
Mhm.
just know they're not your client. They're not for you, right?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not here to serve everybody in the world.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's not an easy lesson, I think, especially for folks who are starting off, but I always think I my undergrad is in professional writing, and one thing we learned really early on is when you try to reach everyone, you reach no one. And that's what I've kind of used many times professionally and personally, and just recognize, like, I'm not for everyone. Everyone is not for me, and that's okay.
Right. Totally. And it's a better
Mhm.
fit. Your book will be a better fit. And
Mhm.
when you're hiring on your team, if you know exactly what you need and that's going to be a better fit, you're putting out content, speak to your audience, and everyone else
Mhm.
will ignore you if you're clear.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So let's think about legacy again. And that you work with many women who are 50 years and older, many other individuals as well. And I'm wondering, in your experience, how should all leaders, regardless of age, be thinking about, these communication breadcrumbs, whether it's something as formal as a book or if it's just social media posts that they're leaving behind for the next generation of leaders?
Yeah, legacy is an interesting word because some people really resonate with it and other people don't, right? I found that that's when I use legacy in my marketing, I get a certain kind of person, right? For most people, legacy means I want to leave something to be remembered at my company or for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually the two things, right? There's probably more, but that's usually the two things. And that's really two totally different things. So if you're leaving something for your kids, just write them a book or give them a scrapbook or something. That's a different
Mm-hmm.
thing. If you want to leave
Yeah.
something professionally, your leadership style, your words of wisdom, how to lose 400 pounds in 3 months,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
whatever your expertise is, you want to write that in such a way that it's professional and business
Mm-hmm.
and so how you frame yourself on social media is the same way. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't post too many personal things on
Mm-hmm.
social. I post some, but it's pretty curated. I curate it pretty well. I post a lot of my professional, my
Mm-hmm.
outward image. Even when I'm posting something personal, it's what I would post if I was at a networking event or
Mm-hmm.
what I would post if I went to meet someone in a coffee shop for a business
Yep.
meeting, right? I'm out there as personal,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still pretty
Mm-hmm.
unprofessional.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. If leaving a legacy for work, for business, make sure it's professional.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's such a helpful distinction because you're right. I think so many people think legacy as a singular, right? And
Mm,
so they're confounding, what I want to leave my children, what I want to leave work, what I just want to leave. But it is really helpful to consider the different contexts and in order to make it meaningful and
yeah.
useful.
And if you're writing business books and even memoirs,
Mhm.
for the most part, your kids in your 20s don't care yet, I think.
Mhm.
They
Yes.
gotta get older before they ca I mean,
Mhm.
just now, I'm like, my late 60s, and just now I'm like, "I wonder why my mom said that to me when I was 20. I gotta go find that
Yeah.
great-great-grandma." Like, I'm more
Yeah.
interested now than I've ever been, right?
Mhm.
Some of it just takes time.
Yeah. So, Michelle, I have two final questions for you. These go hand in hand. It's the way that we end all episodes of The Communicative Leader. And the first part of the question is, advice, a challenge, or a tip for our titled leaders. And then the second part is, what is that advice, challenge, or a tip for employees across all ranks?
Well, let's start with the employees.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably also not about you. You're probably if you're feeling it's probably more about the leader not leading well, or you're caught in the crossfire, or something happened and you're taking the brunt, but you are a person, and younger generations, Gen Zers, are more both emotionally triggered and more emotionally stable than other generations. Now, that's a blanket statement, and that's just my observation, right? Nothing to back that up on, but like, just tell the truth if you're a leader, so your
Mm-hmm.
employees know what's what. And if you're an employee or a team member, please don't take it personally, whatever's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Be your own leader. Follow these same tips and tell
Mm-hmm.
yourself the truth. Don't react. Don't be in triggered mode. Listen,
Mm-hmm.
take a breath, respond slowly, right?
Yep.
And I'd say that for both sides. I don't know if that tip works for both sides, but that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Quit
Yeah.
being reactive to each other.
Mhm. Yeah, that is true. And I always think too, at its root, leadership means to influence. So we're always in a place of influence,
Right.
whether we're mindful of it or not. We don't need that title in
Right.
order to, yeah, to wear that.
Yeah, for
Excellent.
sure.
Well, Michelle, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for sharing all of this rich insight. These are some of these ideas I know I'm going to go back over and continue to think about and integrate. So, again, thank you for the good work that you're doing and what you're leaving our listeners with.
It's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you, Dr. O. And I've loved being here.